One of the things I was asked to talk about when was asked to start doing these little broadcasts was collaboration. And I can remember saying to the person back in the early days, it was a drama teacher, back in the early days, it was very much a one-man show, and I was just kind of leading it. I was the only adult around, and the other young people were my collaborators, and there was very little other adult input other than the musicians on musicals or doing the underscore. But in the early 2000s, that changed with Danny Sturrock, who very much became a key supporter a little bit later on with the multimedia, and he was actually still involved in the youth theatre, but he'd been a technician as a OYT leaver and moving into the backstage team. And this lady arrived in Southampton from Taunton. She became a languages teacher, and my colleague, the lovely Johnny Carrington, asked Kate to get involved in his drama club productions. I was always a bit shy of asking people to get involved, but I did, because she seemed enthusiastic, and boy was she enthusiastic. She has been the kind of silent figure behind Wheellerplays and the unnamed credit, who has helped so much in terms of makeup and costume, all of which was unpaid, even when pay was offered. Just fantastic work from Kat. So a heartfelt thank you. And you'll see that I actually did not credit her in the first place as we go on with this story. And this is the story of sequin suits and platform boots. And it was my attempt to, I was inspired by Nick Hornby's Fever Pitch book, which was about an Arsenal fan telling his story. So I am, you probably know this, a big David Bowie fan. That's the day I saw David Bowie in Bristol. I saw him at the Colston Hall perform. It was the most magical evening I've probably ever had, and it was just wonderful. And I felt if Nick Hornby can do this about Arsenal, I, as a big David Bowie fan, can write my fan tribute play. So I wrote what was initially called Ziggy's Band, and later that became a GCSE edit of the complete sequin suits play. And we again got lots of coverage in the local press. There we all are. And some very key people from the youth theatre there: Gemma Priestley, Mike Mears, Charlotte, Gina, Anthony and Paul. I can see there in that. And over here, even more amazing, just by chance, is little Matt Savage. You'll hear much more about him in the Stop the Traffic. He just got into the National Youth Theatre, and he'd been working mainly with Johnny at this point. So Ziggy's Band went on, and I can remember putting this poster up. There's Adam, who was kind of dressed up. I was going to say like Ziggy Stardust, but it's like a monk, and I'll explain that in a moment. I can remember putting the poster up, which was full of David Bowie references. This is the writing about it. And as I was putting it up, I thought everybody would stop and look, and it would cause such a big thing. And it didn't. No one stopped and looked. And lots of people have said to me, I'm quite strange how much I like David Bowie. I've just assumed everybody liked him like this. But that's not true, and I learnt that through this play. Anyway, we put the performance on, and whoa, we got some great reviews. Before I do that, after I'll do it. Surreal and quirky humour sets the style of this thoroughly original tribute to David Bowie. Writer-director Mark Wheeler is well known to local audiences in a different vein as the creator of Missing Dan Nolan. You couldn't get two such opposite things. Danny Sturrock, the older Shakey, commands the show. He certainly did. He did. He shaved his legs and put on a Ziggy Stardust elaborate costume and sang a Space Oddity wonderfully. Adam Sanders plays his lively younger counterpart with assured confidence, while Charlotte Wells and Alex Chalk create hilarious cameo roles as Shakey's parents. A uniformly excellent cast supports the production. It is proposed to perform it at Edinburgh Festival Fringe. And listen to this. Southampton can take civic pride in being so superbly represented. Whoa, we were off to a great start at Edinburgh, another review. Shakey is played by Anthony Jennings. He took over in the second year. And the second year we did a different version. It was called Sequin Suits and Platform Boots. Big problems with the copyright associated with David Bowie's music. So we made it into a glam rock tribute, and it covered a wider fan base as well. So it was probably a good thing for the play. With camp pizzazz. Parents Doris and Norman and Shakey's sister Gilly create an authentic 1970s family. A delightful blockbuster. And guess who was the blockbuster? There he is. My little Charlie. So, let me see if I can hold two things. A delightful blockbuster played again by Charlie Wheeler. A credit here too for the unnamed makeup artist who created a bizarre rock and roll face. Thank you, Kat. I'll name you now. And that's the Sequin Suits version. I think this was the Jean Genie in the first version, and this was the Blockbuster in the second version. And there he is in a bigger piece here. Exam Success of Glam Rock Scribe. And it talks about me, and this is the time when I was beginning to be used on exam boards. So Alan Ayckbourn, John Gudbert and Mark Wheeler. The pantheon of popular playwrights includes a series of household names. Mark Wheeler, the head of drama at Oakland's Community School in Southampton, is not one of them. Yet the 48-year-old's work has been cited by Edexcel examiners alongside renowned playwrights as the most regularly performed by GCSE students. So this had happened very soon, like 5 years after the first plays had been published, other than Hard to Swallow. 16-year-old Anthony Jennings, who was playing Shakey, who has just finished studying drama GCSE, is baffled by his teacher's fame. It never occurred me to ask for his autograph, he said. We just don't think of him in that way, and certainly they didn't. They were just my lovely people. And there's Anthony, lovely Anthony, a friend of my Ollie's from Bitton Park School, and two ex-Oakland students. This guy, Mike, was a kind of John Cleese of our youth theatre. Wonderful performer, and I wrote the part around him of Shakey's dad. And Charlotte was mum of the group and of the whole youth theatre. A wonderful performer, now living in New Zealand and running her own groups, drama groups. And there they are again. We had some fantastic scenes, and it was based somewhat on my childhood, though the mum and dad weren't exactly the same. And a rock opera I wrote. And there it is, a rock opera I wrote about a monk who was ordinary, and it was called The Ordinary Monk Rock Opera. And my idea was that my group, the Luminous Earwigs, would come in and I would be dressed up as a monk, and that would be my kind of persona. I was asked back many years later to do a talk at my school, and when I arrived, the one thing they'd remembered about me was, if I can put this on in the right way, that I was a David Bowie fan. And so I wore this for the whole of the talk I gave as meant to be an inspiring talk. We performed at the Tottenham Drama Festival. Lovely. Charlie, my lovely little Charlie, got, where is he? There he is. Got an award for the whole blockbuster entrance. I think the adjudicator said it was one of the most wonderful entrances he'd ever seen. We performed at the New Forest Drama Festival. We were doing really well. We got curtain call awards. Anthony Jennings, Shakey, Bubbling Stars suited role to perfection. Alex Chalk, Norman Threwer, Ziggy's band, hilarious. Charlotte Wells brought this role to new levels of bizarreness. Lovely, well done, Charlotte. And also, look at this, Imogen Comrie, Rachel from Blackout, EC Borough Youth Theatre, powerfully created her role. All these nominations, and Best Newcomer, Georgina Matak, Gilly Threwer, Sequin Suits and Platform Boots, Oakland's Youth Theatre. Great! We take it to Edinburgh. We were going to be a big hit. There we are. Lovely. A fantastic brochure. Really, really wonderful poster that we had done for this. And I think this would probably have been done by Danny. Talk about collaboration. I mean, it was great work. I might be wrong about that, but I'm not sure. So we arrived at Edinburgh full of beans and very excited to perform. And we were described in the brochure as Get It On, Mark's musical by affectionately recalls the glittering 70s and one fan's ambition to be the Starman. Surreal and quirky humour sets the style of this thoroughly original glam rock tribute. The day the reviewer came, we were so lucky they came the first week. I've highlighted it, there it is. I'll read you the review from the Scotsman. Sitting through this ludicrous story and bad school play acting in this tale of a teen glam rock band will be as uncomfortable as wearing Lurex underpants. I can remember that coming out the next morning and me being absolutely devastated and thinking, here I am, this person who's meant to be alongside Alan Ayckbourn and John Godber, and we really, I didn't think I deserved that kind of level of almost abuse, and I thought David Bowie would never have had that. And I didn't question in my mind, of course David Bowie would have had that. He had a whole period in the 80s where his work was seriously panned. So this was my big down. We had to go out the next day, and there's Charlie really going for it in the festival, on the streets, performing. We had to keep going. The next day, and bizarrely, I haven't managed to keep, we had the most amazingly good review. Here's the ups and downs of Edinburgh. And it was a recommended show. So we went from being, I think we were listed as one of the 10 worst shows in Edinburgh. And the next day we got 4 stars out of 5, and that was a 1-star review. And we were recommended as a great show to go to. So it all ended up okay. We went out, had a lovely meal. There's Ollie and Charlie and the other youth theatre folk there. And we got a great review when the play was published by Maverick Productions and School Play Productions. No, Resources for Drama. It says, makes lots of references to Shapes Record Shop. Yeah, I did. Shapes Record Shop, and Mark, who owned that in Thornbury, was the record shop for me, and there's so many great memories of that, and I was glad to celebrate that in this play. Bang a gong, get it on and get a script. I would endorse that, says the Amateur Stage. So thanks very much for that review. And it left in me a kind of dissatisfaction because it hadn't quite achieved what I wanted to manage to do. So I thought maybe sometime later on I'll write another David Bowie related play, and I did. But it didn't come for a long time. It was quite a sad thing. So there we are, sequin suits at the Edinburgh Fringe, and my colleague Johnny took along another play, Bang Out of Order. And that's the one that has really left its mark, and it nearly became a set text, and it's one lots of people use in exams. So probably, rather than sequin suits, I have a suspicion Bang Out of Order is the one that is going to live on. So well done, Johnny, you outstandingly beat me on that year.